Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq, back with our annual Singapore Fintech Festival coverage. Organized by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the Singapore Fintech Fest is on its 6th edition. We're proud to be a media partner for the 4th year in a row. Joining me for this segment is Rodrigo Medgenberg. He's the Sales Director of EMEA over at Digital Asset. Rodrigo, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Good morning. Thank you, Jill. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And there has been a lot of activity of late around asset tokenization and capital markets. Is there really more market interest in digital assets, or is this hype?
No, I think this is very, very real, and we're seeing a lot of activity in the space. So there's a growing interest from both FMIs and other financial institutions to tokenize traditional capital markets globally. So if you think about what we're seeing and the hype, so I think there's a dematerialization around securities and processes, and then there is the digitizing issuance and assets, and all of these are at the forefront of change in capital markets. But I think it differs a little bit depending on which region you are. So, for instance, right now for you in the Asia Pacific region, I believe they have been the pioneers, the early adopters, so to say. So it started, if you think, with the ASX, around the movement in chess and replacing, I would say traditional legacy technology using blockchain and smart contracts. Then you had the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, which, as you know, is building a new platform to create greater access to mainland China. And then lately, you see other projects like in Bursa Malaysia, where you have, dematerialization of securities. In Europe, I think it's a little bit different, a similar hype, but there, you're creating ecosystems or marketplace. So for instance, Nasdaq, here at the forefront with a marketplace services platform where, they're partnering with companies like Digital Assets to create, I would say, an ecosystems where companies can create new apps in a whole new way. And then obviously you have what you saw in Germany around the D7 platform, which is the new digital post-trade platforms. And then if you think about all of these efforts, they're really creating new opportunities and creating, I would say, that hype that you were talking about for market participants.
Right. Rodrigo, Digital Asset has been in this space for quite some time. So it sounds like the interest is real based on what you've seen with the evolution with digital assets. So it does sound like the interest is real and continuing to grow. So with that said, what are some of the drivers behind the change that you've seen?
Number one is the regulator. I think in most jurisdictions, they have paved the way. So look at Germany, for instance. You have the law that was passed about 6-8 months ago that is now recognizing dematerialized bonds. I think another driver is obviously crypto assets, which are now appealing to institutions. And you saw, the news out of the United States around the creation of being able to offer ETFs. But I believe the greatest driver is the Open Finance Initiative. So companies are starting to understand and realize the benefits and efficiencies, risk reductions of embracing this new open source mantra. So companies like Goldman Sachs, for instance, were building this new platform for asset tokenizations where you're going to be able to have both the public and the permission blockchains that will create, this whole new movement around the industry.
And what obstacles to adoption still remain?
I mean, regulation, even though, you see these laws, I think there is a little bit of clarity required around, what is it that you're able to do? We heard a lot of these, I would say, challenges in the United States about something being, classified as a securities on the SEC that moves in. So there's, I think, a little bit of clarity. On the technology side, I think there is obviously interoperability, which is, the ability to make sure that you do not get locked into a technology so that you have, market participants that can freely, issue a bond, for instance, in this exchange and then move over to a different region without having to have different systems.
Right. Rodrigo, at the top, I mentioned that you head up EMEA. Where do you see this space going, particularly with emerging markets and the APAC region?
I think it's. I think there's a movement, I would say, around digitizing, traditional assets. So the crypto market is something like 2.5 trillion in assets, and I think right now by the end of next year it'll be overturned by the digitalization of traditional assets. So something like $10 trillion that are going to be digitized, and On the technology side, I think it's that interconnected systems, the ability that you're, I mentioned the Hong Kong Stock Exchange earlier, that you will be able to expect to be able to see different applications, different asset types, but at the same time, it's an integration between this private and public networks.
All right, Rodrigo, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you for having me, Jill. Thank you.